Hi everyone, welcome to Psychedelic Conversations. This is your hub for engaging in deep conversations around serotonergic hallucinogens that alter perceptions, affect cognitive processes, induce mystical and spiritual experiences. Enjoy the show. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Psychedelic Conversations. It's so great to have you with us. Please tune in. I have an amazing guest on this episode for you today. I have Luis Solarat. He is a manager and facilitator at Psychonauta Foundation Plant Medicine Retreat. Born in Spain, Galicia, became interested in video games and film. Then he went to study to film and then started making films and photography. Years later, he moved to London and found a podcast, a London Real podcast, which then unfolded into Luis becoming the head of video production and then directing every single London Real documentary films, including Reconnect, which is a plant medicine documentary. And his interest in psychedelics began recreationally. Then he transitioned into a lifelong passion in psychedelics and plant medicines. Now he's in jungle and he participated in a long dieta, also due to the pandemic. He's actually stuck in jungle currently. And he also recorded his own documentary film, which episode 1 just released, and I had the honor and the privilege to watch it. It's so powerful, which we're going to dive into that. But for now, let's welcome Luis. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello, Susan. Thank you so much. It's so great to see you again. And thank you for this opportunity to talk with you. It's going to be great.
Yeah, amazing. So I've been following your journey. Of course, I know you from London Real as a London Real coach previously myself, and we met each other there and we worked together on so many occasions. And what's so powerful is that you recorded or directed, let's say, you directed all of the London Real episodes, documentary films and episodes, and it's incredible work you have done. And let's begin there. Because we're going to go into your psychedelic transmissioning into this path, but also let's begin there because it felt like, it almost feels like you had a dream job, but then you was able to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So before,
yes.
tell us what level of courage and what level of that's a brave act to just walk away. To follow what's been, your soul was calling, because I like I said, I watched your Dissolution documentary, and you said I had to follow my call. What does that look like? Can you explain to us?
Well, as you mentioned, and as you know, working London Real was a bit of a dream as well. Like we were having all these amazing conversations. I was doing films, especially doing films was very interesting because we were traveling to different locations, Israel, New York, Costa Rica, and spending time with some of my idols, people that I've been following for years, like Dennis McKenna, for example, or really inspiring people like Guido Portal. And it was an amazing time. I'm so glad with all the things that we did there as a team. It was not just me, it's like all the people there. And it was very addictive to be in that environment full of ideas and high energy, and you don't get bored. And at the beginning it was amazing, but in the last 2-3 years, I really start to feel a need of something else. I was kind of feeling that my life was just the career, which was amazing, but there was nothing else, you know, like from personal relationships to connection with nature in London to, you know, like it was in a way a very robotic existence, you know, like even if I was doing amazing job and it was very creative in a way, I had this thought all the time. It's like, what if I die? I just did films, you know, like what about all these all aspects of the world, you know, like, and I have a long life interest in psychedelics, in the not only psychedelics, kind of you can consciousness or the mystery, no, it's like kind of what the hell is going on here. So psychedelics is one of the things that interests me, but also meditation, yoga, religion. I mean, these things were all in my life, and I was able to put some of these ideas and work with these ideas also in London Real. That's what was so appealing to me. Like it was a lot of spirituality and it was exciting. But I wanted to also live my own story, not just tell the stories of others. And this was something that was creeping on me every day there towards the end. And all this toxicity of the city and the pollution. And I was living in the last year also in the center and the noise and I was getting very, I don't know that depressed is not the word, but almost angry or anxious, obsessed,
Empty. Yeah, like empty
empty,
life.
yeah,
Yeah, empty.
yeah. And also the project of my life there was because Reconnect, the last film I did, that was my dream project inside that company. You know, like was working with Dennis McKenna. For the people that don't know, we did like a plant medicine documentary that it's been amazing. That was my life there. So this thing was finishing. So I talked with Brian and we had this conversation like, Brian, now what? Is like, what story are we going to tell? And we both agree that, look, now it's time to live and to see what life gives to us, you know, like, because we run out of stories of in a way, you know, like, so even if it was very difficult to take that moment, I felt that that was the right moment. I finished what I came here to do. I did this documentary, and now it's time for me to do that. What I told myself I was going to do maybe 12 years ago, even before going to London. I already had these plans of going to the Amazon, and then I changed because the career was more important, of course. But this was the moment. So I left. But I didn't leave like, okay, I go away. In that moment, it was like, well, I will come back in a few months. Let's see. Let's try to collaborate in another way. When I come back to London, there was no virus. There was like business as usual back then, you know, like. And then as I saw, as you saw in the film, things happened. The pandemic hit me in the middle of the trip, and everything become more serious, and life become more serious with this thing here. And yeah, I took this as a great excuse, an opportunity to do what it was always inside me. That is like to live here, at least for a while, to explore this, to go deep into this and see what it has to offer to me.
Yeah. So what part of jungle are you in? And you're in Peru?
In Peru, I'm in the Amazonia, in the Peruvian Amazon rainforest, close to a town called Nauta, and this is close to Iquitos. So it's 2 hours from Iquitos, and then you go through the road, and then you walk into the forest. And we are here in the jungle. It's not super deep jungle, so we're still having a bit of internet, as you see, and it's been great. I'm in this camp called Psychonauta Foundation, that is a place where I specialize in Dieta with the Shipibo tradition. So I came here originally to do a Dieta.
So that was the plan. So before you left, before pandemic kicked off, you had this, this burning calling and this passion for doing your work with the plant medicines in this traditional way. Tell us a bit more about Dieta, because most of our listeners probably be able to watch, because we put the link in the comments, and they will be able to follow your journey, because the documentary that you shared, it's incredible. It literally, it's such an eye-opener in your own process. But it wasn't just your process. It was, you literally covered everything, not your personal, but also like global, everybody's journey. I found myself in there. I found when you were telling the storytelling and the, you know, facing the obstacles, moving through the obstacles, and keep going with that trust, holding on and trusting the unfolding.
Amazing.
These were just like, oh my God, he's just telling my story. That's
Yeah.
my story. I didn't go to jungle, but the whole pandemic transition was exactly that for many people. I know they will resonate with that. So I can't wait for them to explore that.
Wow, that's very humbling and very. I'm honored to listen that, because that's how it felt for me as well. You know, like when I came to do the dieta. We'll talk now what the dieta is, but you know, like suddenly I felt that we were in this all together, all the planet. You know, like because okay, so dieta is. I discovered this when we were shooting Reconnect, the film. So the shaman told me about the dieta, and the dieta is how originally how the shamans learned to be a shaman in the Shipibo tradition, and it's where the shaman goes into the forest, a little hut in the forest, and they just eat rice and plátano and fish and really no bland food, no spices, no contact with anybody. No contact, obviously. Internet, they don't have that. And they just go into the forest for years in complete isolation. And while they are doing this, they consume one of the 1,000 plants of the Amazon. So there is plants for everything. You know, there is plants for physical business, for emotional, for spiritual. So by doing the dieta, is kind of that's the deal with the plant. You do this, and the plant will give you their teachings, and these are different teachings depending on different plants. So a good shaman is the shaman that has more dietas. So it's kind of you accumulate these powers. Accumulate is a bad word, but you know, like kind of you learn directly from the plants, and that's why it's so important to be super disciplined and take out all the external noise, because the plants are so subtle. It's not like ayahuasca that like sometimes these things come through dreams, through different thoughts. So they learn from these plants. And when the shamans were talking to me, this sounds for me fascinating. It's like, wow, it's like I really want to do that. But in that moment, I never thought that a Western could do that. Because like I survived 2 days in the jungle if I'm going on my own, you know, like. So it was kind of something that was there, but you know, like I knew that, you know, like I'm a city boy, what I'm going to do here. But then, when I was finishing the film, this thing popped up in Facebook, and this was the first time that I saw a retreat facilitating this, acting like a bridge between the show and a bit more comfortable, even if it's not. And then I realized that there is a lot of retreats. And I found the retreat, and I really resonate with all the things that I was seeing from these guys, because the philosophy, the writing, the pictures they have. I say, okay, this is my place, and I book a dieta for 2 weeks. Originally, it was going to be 2 weeks, and then I was going to continue traveling to Peru. And I booked this dieta. So when you write the dieta, you put your intentions. What do you want to? Why do you want to do this dieta? And then they are talking with the shamans. They will give you one of the plants according to your intentions. But I didn't know too much about the plant that I was going to diet or anything like that. So yeah, the dieta is this process of isolation, dedication to the plant, kind of suffering. It's kind of a vipassana meditation, but with plants. And then every 2-3 days you have an ayahuasca ceremony. And these ceremonies, in this context, of course, it's like a normal ayahuasca ceremony, but also they are done so you can communicate and build a stronger relationship with the plant that you are dieting. So the songs that the shamans are singing and everything, they are made to reinforce your connection with this plant. So it's like kind of you have the shaman like a coach, energetically, like a coach that is reinforcing your dieta and checking how you're doing, if you are doing it well or not. And you can use the dieta for different purposes. You can use it for personal healing. a lot of people that we have here is just a way to deal with depressions or physical thing. Or you can also use the Dieta to get more into this like apprentice of a shaman. If you want to be a healer or something like that, but that's a longer path. But yeah, you can use also as a curiosity or a lot of different uses. So yes, that was great.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. I mean, it's great that you explained the Dieta process. It's definitely has many purposes. I also am aware that it can be for personal detoxification. I call it, when you want to just clear out everything, mind, body, psyche. And then I like the aspect of training or apprenticeship to become a shaman or a facilitator. And I am aware that they can go on to like years, right? Because I do know few people that has spent, if not months, but years in the jungle, just kind of dieting, traditionally. So the difference is that it's not like the ceremony, because the ceremony is the preparation is more intense, right? You said there's isolation, there is you can't eat certain foods, you're only consuming live raw vegetables and fruits, probably, if not maybe no fruits.
Not any sugar, not any salts, not any spice. All these strong energies are not allowed, because are so strong that they can block the connection with the plant. So you here in this center is very bland food. That goes from rice, quinoa, potato, no salt, but apart from all the plants, just the reduction and the isolation and this process is also just only that, without any of the visionary experience, is very powerful, because you're forced to be on your own without nothing to do for the time needed. So it's like a very, very revealing on your ego, very revealing. It breaks down everything, and everything will come to surface there when you don't have anything to do, and you can't consume the Netflix or the music or the book or the things that you are used to go to. And that I found that super valuable. And I think it can be valuable for everyone. Just to know yourself, as they say.
So aside from connecting with the plants, I think Dieta seems like it has a very powerful way of removing you from some of these distractions that in the civilized world, we're not able to do this for ourselves. It's not like it's not a free will to just check yourself, out of the distraction from, social media, Netflix, or even the food and things that we engage in, right? And somehow in the Dieta, you had to literally been stripped away all of this. What was that like? Did it feel like, because some people describe it as a psychological death and a rebirth. Did you go through those processes?
Sorry, can you say that? Psychological?
Yeah, some people they talk about Dieta as going through a psychological death and a rebirth process. Does it make sense?
Yes, I mean, definitely at the beginning, it's like a death and rebirth. It can be described like that. And the death comes from this period at the beginning, when even your body is accustomed to another completely different cycles. The food, everything is like you're completely outside your element, and you're going to get triggered by everything, and and you can't run away from it. You can't run away. So this is the thing, you can even, and now that I also seeing this with the people that is coming, it's even more interesting to see the different process of the people. And there is people that they are really strong egos, and they think but it ends up breaking down, and you will have this moment of surrender. That there's a moment that you cannot control. You need to let go. At some point, it takes more or less, and this is when the magic happens. When you actually surrender to the experience and say, okay, and this is when you start to be open to new things. But But yeah, it can be described about that. And like, and what you mentioned about that this is very difficult to do in the city, I agree with you. I mean, it will require 100 times more discipline to do this on your own, in an Airbnb. If you get it into go to the forest, like, it's very difficult. So this is why these centers seeks to kind of allow you to be in this process, and it's very difficult. It can be beautiful as well. Like, for me, it was mostly beautiful, my first Dieta, because I did more. But yeah, I mean, it's something that you need to experience on your own. Like, even the like the phone addiction or everything. Like
Yeah.
everything, and you can see really how these things affect you. It's like a laboratory. Like, then you start to see how your mind is
Mhm.
without 2 days of conversations or things. So it's all things that come through you. In a way, it's like you stop consuming in the big sense. You stop consume conversations, people, other people, emotions, big foods, books, all these things that we are always consuming. And then you start, instead, it's like you start to create, and then for example, journaling, drawing, music, all these things are allowed. And actually, all these things
Mhm.
made is how the medicine works as well, through music, and this is, the dietas are very related to the Icaros. For the shaman, they learn the Icaros from the plants, and the dieta, the songs, the magical songs that they sing. So this is different ways that the medicine has to work on you and to unblock you. But it's all these things that come from you. So it's almost passing from a consumer to a creator. Right? That's what I,
Mhm.
I observe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do believe that the way one of the I saw glimpses of little scenes in your Dissolution documentary
Mm-hmm.
that there is a animated in shadow it's an in shadow animation video
Mm-hmm.
that the creator of the in shadow, he kind of
I'm losing you.
tells the
Yeah.
story. Yeah, he tells the story of how we became such consumers and how we became in the civilized or the new age digital world. We became
Mm-hmm.
so robotic, so robotic, and so it's become a default without realizing what's happening, or at
Mm-hmm.
least what it's doing to our mind, our heart, and our soul when we are in that high consuming
Mm-hmm.
default, functioning. And then suddenly, like you said, even the 2 days, I can imagine how impactful that must have been to your mind and to your
Mm-hmm.
soul. So let's go back to one other thing I wanted to ask you about the dieta. You said sometimes people come in with ego. So I think your experience, from what I'm understanding, it was a beautiful experience, even though it was really difficult. Because it's easy for us to just kind of talk about it on a conceptual level, where Dieta is you go to a jungle and you literally been stripped away from your phone and everything that you own,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a little tiny cabin, and you have you need to isolate, and you can't eat. I mean, there is not just
And,
one
and and
thing.
and this is just the day that the country got in lockdown for this virus that we didn't know even what to do. Like, it was
Yeah,
even more
exactly.
more string. I
So
thought that the world was ending.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
So
you must have been in such, like, oh my God, on top of that, now you need to be cut off in the middle of pandemic, not knowing what's going on in the world, which can be a good thing though, Luis, in a
it
way.
was amazing. It was amazing. It was
Mm.
amazing. I'm glad I didn't put that rubbish in my head. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
wow. But I have, like everybody. I mean, that's what you were saying, that it was the same process. I mean,
Mhm.
in the normal world, you have to deal with the fear as well of seeing this news and seeing
Mhm.
these realities that are not your present reality, that they were coming from all over the world, bombarding you with fear. And me in the Dieta, I didn't have the news, but I have the thoughts, like, and I have what the
Yeah.
fuck is happening? I'm sure my mother is sick. I'm sure this and that. Fuck. And like, you can get into rabbit holes as well. So it's the same exercise that the people that learn how to deal also with this.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And let alone taking away everything in the West, even if you take even if you take someone's, I don't know, mobile phone, it will be a chaos. So I'm just trying to like process what it may feel like to strip away from everything that you know as your reality, and then now you need to adapt to this new reality. But I can also just wanted to just say that before we move on, you said that sometimes you meet a lot of people come in there with a lot of ego. For you, because you were kind of ready, I sense that you were ready to embrace what's to come, the unknown. You had an idea what is required to go through a dieta, and you also had, you know, psychedelic and plant medicine experiences prior. So you kind of was equipped and ready and mature about the process. And I can just imagine some other people coming to these retreats unprepared, just because it's a trend, you know, because of the digital world that we live in. It's easy that everybody kind of falls into this idea of, this is a trend, I need to go and experience ayahuasca or a dieta. And they come in without really understanding what they are expected to go through. And I can just see and imagine the chaotic ego breakdowns. And did you like witness these as well? Because I know you're isolating, but
when I say strong ego, I mean we all have egos. I mean, I had my ego. When I say strong ego, it's more people that for one reason or other one, his defenses are very solid, and you know, like, and maybe it's like, maybe they come with this attitude like, no, I want this, I want to see this, I want to fix this, and the plant is showing you another thing. It's like, no, but I want that, you know, like this is, or I want things to be done in my way, you know, like, or I want, you know, like, it's very, very strong necessity for control.
Yes.
And when they are stripped down here, you are not in control, because this is a process, and there is a lot of things that maybe for the Western world doesn't make any sense, you know, like why can I eat this and not this? Why are we doing that and not that? You know, like, so you try to control it. And this is what I meant, that sooner or later this breaks down, you know, like, because you cannot, the ego these defenses sooner or later, in the most of the cases, breaks down. And I think that's the magical thing of this process, that is able to remove that, and that allows you to connect with the world in a completely different way that is not your way. Because if you want to do your way, you have your life, but here is a way. And yes, what you say about people that are not prepared, funny enough, now in this period, it's very difficult to travel, and we're having a few clients, but we also had some clients that they didn't know too much what this Dieta was about. And we were the first one that were surprised that with the right guidance and with the right environment, they had really good experiences. And we have, you know, like, from a couple of Americans in their 60s that they never left the jungle. The first time ayahuasca, you know, like, kind of they found this. And I was, we were a bit worried about the, wow, it's like they're going to be here in the jungle. But they have an amazing experience. And, you know, like, if you are able to surrender and to kind of be aware of your fears and use that fear as the trigger to change. Then the process, the jungle, the shamans, and the medicine, they do their work, and it's amazing how this plant works. I'm so impressed every day with the process. It's like, it's unbelievable to see what they do. These plants are crazy, really. So, and nature is a big part as well. You know, you know, like, it's used to being the jungle and being, you know, like, being, you see how a leaf falls down, and in less than 3 minutes there is insects coming and eating that leaf, or you go to the toilet in the forest and that disappear in 3 minutes. You can feel yourself immersed in this big cycle where everything is in balance, everything has a purpose, and you start to kind of even operate in a much less intellectual way, and in a much more I don't know how to call it, physical, you know, more animalistic in a way. But, you know, like, even your body, sometimes in ceremony I was doing movement and kind of massages, very animalistic, but, you know, kind of an old sense that they were completely
primal.
More primal things, that they were completely dharma. They were, we were not using in the day. So these are the benefits. It's a lot about the body. It's a lot about the nature. It's a lot about that intelligence, nature intelligence, the intelligence that is making your breath going on its own, is able to heal everything in your body if you get your ego away. Your only work
Yeah.
is to get the ego outside, and then it's all physical, it's all body, it's all healing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said about sometimes people come in from the civilized world, like, and they haven't ever been or experienced the jungle, but yet they really trust the process. And also the thing that stands out for me is setting. This has a massive, big part in any plant medicine or psychedelic, right? We need to be in a safe environment, setting intention, and facilitators who knows what they're doing, and they've also been working with these plants, because right now it seems like we're going through a psychedelic renaissance, but it's how do you see that? Because from my perspective, coming from a holistic psychology background, I see that the renaissance is happening in the West through mental health. Now we have some of these people, Imperial College, Dr. Robin Card, he's leading, and there are so many centers around the world. They are leading, a lot of studies, but I can imagine in the West, there is still going to be limitation in the way these plants and psychedelics work, because it's going to be, although we really prioritize and value the setting, how much can you connect in the way the nature intended for us to connect with these plant medicines in a jungle than in a posh clinic, in a nice little comfortable bed? Right?
Totally right, and it's exciting to see where this is going, and I'm sure there will be amazing models in both ways. But some of the realizations I had here was a bit like that. Is like, how are you going to isolate in a laboratory the moon phase and the jungle? All these things are as important as even the substance. The cycles of nature, the moon, the set and setting. So, Western medicine is all about this isolation of the compound, and this is the opposite of it. This is more about the whole. It's the whole. So it's going to be very interesting to see these dynamics. Where is it going? Even with this psilocybin, it's not magic mushrooms. It's psilocybin. It's the compound. You are kind of stripping down a lot of the naturistic elements of it. And this is what the Western world always does: reduction. So that leads us to the problems that we have today, the individualistic boxes. So I don't have the answers, but it is definitely a conversation, and I think the answer, as in everything, it will be a harmony and balance between these two approaches. But yeah, I think we're going to see an exponential growth in both, in clinics in the city for people that like more this medical, but also this will create that centers like this that are in the jungle with the tradition, with the minimal things and the comfort, also will have much more demand, because a lot of people will want more for this. So very interesting for in the long term, but also it meant that we need to be trying to steal your money.
Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah, please continue.
So I was just saying that I'm sure there will be some outlets, or somehow with the research is now taking a momentum, and we're learning more about these compounds. I have a feeling that I'm sure there will be enough study, research, and knowledge about how to bring it to the civilized world for those, because a lot of people are not going to be able to travel to jungle and spend the time to experience, like what you said about the holistic experience of the plant medicines. But still, I feel like there's still hope. Maybe this is just going to be an outlet into integrating it into the Western life before maybe plants can be accepted as part of nature, and there is nothing toxic or fearful about these plants, but maybe relearning what they're meant to be doing for us, rather than being afraid and then control them in labs and clinics, hopefully.
Totally right. Yeah. Yeah, it's curious that we have mainstream has like this fear of plants, like it's like, oh no, this give me the safety of the laboratory, the other one, and like, yeah, as you say, relearning. But like I agree, and like I guess like a good way of balance as well is you don't need to come back to the jungle, but I would like to see like that these clinics also maybe they'll include a nice environment and a nice nature environment, maybe in the city or outside the city. Like we both sides can learn a lot. Also, like I think it's really important to have the Western angle. For example, like the Shipibo culture, they are amazing, but these are completely different culture. And here we are a bridge, and there is a lot we need to explain this to us, because we are a different background, different ideas, different way of thinking, more in the mind, whatever. So it's very important to have this thing also here. I don't think the Shipibo culture on his own can just understand our problems. They don't understand our problems because they have other kind of problems. I mean, so
it's
they
like
work energetically, but they work energetically with us. But to explain, we need facilitators and people trained in these areas that you are mentioning.
Yeah, it feels like there's two different worlds. There's two different cultures, two different worlds of perceiving the world and understanding. But I like the idea of bridging it together and bridging it and also making it accessible either way, with the culture that surrounds it, the ritualistic, and also having the Western understanding of the compound and the clinical way of how it works with the brain and in the Western world.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like those approaches a lot, and I think this may be the way that's it's going to integrate into our future eventually, these plant medicines. Especially now, I want to come and ask you about the other thing that really was so profound for me. I want to take your thoughts on that. I think plant medicine is going to play a massive role, because you mentioned in your documentary about pandemic as a rites of passage, like a global rites of passage. Talk to us about that. Like the whole world also was forced to isolate, and
I mean, and this is how a rite of passage looks. Like it's uncomfortable, is not what you want, is kicking and screaming, is the dark night of the soul, is all your fears, all the things came up to the surface, like it literally facing your shadow and facing the things that you fear the most. I mean, we are losing our jobs, we are losing our ability to travel, and and it happened like that. So this was very prominent in my. And I don't want to get into this. The plant told me and all of it, but like in the context, I did the Dieta with this pandemic just starting. This global layer was very prominent during the ceremonies, and this is what was the basis of this film. Is when I start to think about these things. I mean, it's not just my idea. There's a lot of people like Charles Eisenstein talking about these concepts of this can be, and even in a more esoteric and romantic way, this can even be nature teaching us how to stop and how to mature as a species, so it feels like we are living like a transformation that 1 year ago, if you ask me about this transformation, it will be impossible, so there is a lot of also hope in that on my own, because we were destroying the planet. We cannot continue as we were. And and you were in London with all this Extinction Rebellion, and there was this energy before. We're going to Dennis McKenna also talks about we have 20 years to change what is going to happen, but things were not changing, and suddenly nature kind of did it for us. So now I think our work is also being able in a personal, I mean, in a personal way, because at the end it's the only thing that you can change, your personal way, but what things serve you and what things were not serving you.
Yeah.
And maybe some things that were not serving you, even if it's very painful, like for me, part of my transition here, and I still doing films, but like in a way, I'm kind of my old career and this kind of maybe being a super filmmaker one day is something that maybe I need to let go. That can be painful in a way or not, but like if I really think about that, like what was serving me and others, what can I do? Like what can so maybe so is this kind of questions that are now in the surface, really important questions that maybe if I this never happened, I will make these questions maybe when I'm in my deathbed, like, oh man, I spent all my
Yeah.
life doing films and didn't pay. So in a way, I think this is a death, a mini death, and this is what a rite of passage is. It's like you die, it's like the kid in the tribes, and like this is interesting because I think was I read it in a Daniel Pinch book or something like that. Like how our brain is kind of, if you don't have this ego experience, death experience that in the tribal societies is done by a initiation, that is usually a very scary thing. This is when your brain actually change and you become mature and in neurochemically, like you start to you start to build new connections that makes you more mature, and you can see that our species were like a teenager species, mine, fighting this and that. So maybe this will shake us up enough to change, and like, and I think this is actually a really gentle uh, wake up call because things can get really bad, like so I'm hoping that we all can learn from this, and I hope also to try to see this through that angle, like that this pain must have a reason, and
Yeah.
try to find some purpose on this, because we give this purpose. If we just get into despair and complaining, that's this no. But if you put that intention, it's like an ayahuasca experience. If you have your intention, then you are going to pass through all these uh, bad visions and bad feelings, which much more this is going to be better because you have a direction. So this is a bit what was me a bit the message of the film. And this is what a lot of what I've been thinking since I'm in the jungle.
I really like that. Yeah, it's definitely a rites of passage, global rites of passage. That really struck me because yeah, it's even those people that weren't interested in asking big questions, they start asking big questions. And what really stands out, what you said, maybe about your passion to become a greatest filmmaker. And you said if the pandemic didn't happen, that could have been the drive of your life for the rest of your life, and maybe you miss out on so many other things. It's true. I think this pandemic has pushed so many people to ask bigger questions and review and reflect on those motives, and let go and shed. Like you said, whatever's not serving right now. Because we feel like in the West, because I can talk for myself, because you know what it's like to live in London. You're on a high drive. It's always something like the 24 hours is not enough to do, finish off your checklist. Like we live by checklists after checklist.
Yeah.
And
That describes exactly what I tried to say with how I was feeling in London Real at the where I left. It's like I was not able to stop that, and you don't have time to reflect because you are already distracted. You are already distracted. Even if you do your meditation, when you so many things going on that you don't have time to ask these questions. You are always find a way to avoid to ask you these questions. Always, we are experts on that.
Yeah, there's always something to do, always place to go. Like I said, checklist, and doesn't matter how much mindful we are, it's very difficult to slow down. And I think I know exactly what you mean. And this could be like the life is just kind of, you live life and it's like you're a sleepwalking life. You're not really living, but it's just going, it's slipping away because you don't have time to reflect and find out who are you, who are you, what do you want. behind these incredible, goal settings and passions and dreams, like, what is it? Can we be just okay with what we have? I think pandemic has really kind of put everyone to test, for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and it's like a bit like a psychedelic in a way. It amplifies all what you have inside, and we've seen people going crazy and amplifying his bad tendencies, and we've seen people amplifying his good tendencies, and in us probably the same. It's like you drop acid in the culture, and everything goes like 100. Like so.
Yeah.
So it's good. It's very good. But like just to finish
exactly.
with that, and related to what you just said, that was beautiful. And like at the end, all these rite of passages and initiations is just an encounter with death. What is happening is like we are a society as well that we being avoiding death and in our bubbles of Netflix and this and that, and we don't think about that. We just put it on under the carpet until we need to face it. And when you start to think about that is when you start to ask these questions. And this pandemic actually, it shows us how fragile everything is and how you cannot take things for granted. So these are the good things of the pandemic. And I don't want to sound frivolous because they also had horrible things and people are losing their jobs and things that, like sometimes I was feeling a bit like an imposter talking about this because I haven't been in a city since this pandemic starts. So I don't know how life is there. But I also felt that it was important to show how it was for a person like me, that it was just my experience with this thing, like, so I just trust in that. So
I think to be honest, to be honest, a lot of people that I spoke with, their experience about the pandemic, they say, is nothing short of revolutionary. It's a bit like what you said, dropping a tiny acid and then everything just goes. And it's true. The biggest thing that you would have loved observing here, if you were here, is that it exactly did that. It amplified people tendencies. Some really went crazy and shopped all the toilet papers and canned food. And some of them literally just like, let go. Let's just leave it at that. And I don't need anything. And let me be of a service to other. So it literally amplified what people were carrying within. And of course, watching the news, and they say, there is a saying that you would like this. I know you would like this. They say it's not the virus, but the fear of the virus is killing people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And like with this fear, it's also another opportunity. It's like the obstacle is the way. Like this is an amazing opportunity to practice with the fear, like to actually domesticate that fear, because like tomorrow we will have another thing. It's not a pandemic. Maybe it's fear of cancer. Maybe it's fear of this or other ones. So the fear will change, but this is, you can now practice with like they say in martial arts, you are only as good as your best opponent. Wow, you have an amazing opponent. Just like all the news, all the feeding you say, but the practice of coming back to the present, to not letting you go, as Dan Peña was saying, fear is false expectations of being real. But like it's this practice of coming back to the present is a constant meditation that we are practicing as a collective right now, and this will make us very, because like fear is, who remember the terrorists now? Like there's nothing, like, but before it was that, like this is just an evolution of these things. So, and as you say, like if you get into this state of consciousness, then you start to get sick as well, and like, and a virus can affect you much more when you are in a low vibration, like this is what I think, and what strikes me the most is like I don't see a lot of content made or a lot of people talking about this, how to boost your immune system, how to be positive, how to, it's more important than ever. And like even London Real went into the other route when we were always about this thing. So it pisses me off. I think we need to create more content that teaches people how to live through these states of consciousness, to these times. It's more important than ever.
Yeah.
Not feeding them.
Yeah, I think you said this is the best thing to really focus on. And you started a YouTube channel, Dissolution. I think, I know it's in Spanish, but will you be doing some English versions?
No, yes. I mean, it was in Spanish so far because my audience was far, but now I put this video and I'm receiving a lot of English. I'm going to start by subtitling some of the old videos, and from now I will start to do content. I will go with the flow, but definitely I also see that the community in English is not only bigger, but a bit more, I don't know how to say it, but they are more used to these themes, like I don't need to. So yes, it will be more content in English. I'm aware of that. So you are all welcome.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll be looking forward to that, because I think you're right. We need to focus on how to center ourselves, how to be self-agency, because I also launched a Facebook group beginning of pandemic, thinking that this is a great time to come together and maybe we can stop following the media, the general media of all the scarcity and everything that's just kind of amplifies the fear and the depression. So I thought, let's just actually practice more mindfulness, connect with each other, and also practice self-agency. You're right. I think the only way we're going to get through this is to do our own self-work, because I'm a big believer in what's in the micro is in the macro. So let's just keep going with that vision, right?
Very good that you are doing that. Very important. I mean, mindfulness through my Dieta and through all this period is definitely one of the best tools I had. Like just as I was saying, all this fear, or when your mind is just going away, just catch yourself and come back to the present. And usually in the present you are fine. Like you're fine most of the time. I mean, unless you are sick or something like that. But in my case, I was fine. So it's like, yeah.
Amazing. So as we're coming to the end of our conversation, Luis, I just want to ask you about your Dissolution documentary. Now let's talk about that. It's a good time. So I think you already answered some of this. You said, I think it's time to create more content that resonates with a lot of people, where we can be like the counterforce, and also help people process what they are going through, the experience. For example, your documentary, for me, it sums up everyone's experience of pandemic. And sometimes when you put it in this way of, the way you do it, it creates emotion, and it's got this emotive music and all these, storytelling, and your creativity, of course, speaks here a lot. I think these are the contents that's going to help people wake up, take control of where their attention is going, and also understand their processes. Like, oh my God, this is what I'm going through, and I'm not alone, because look, he's made a video. I'm across the world and I can resonate with that. So I think your level of content creation is going to be the next for me anyway, it's so futuristic, and it's exactly what we need in our evolution right now. And I just wanted to keep going.
Dissolution is evolution.
Dissolution, yeah, exactly. And one of my favorite quote is immolation before what was it again? Immolation before illumination. Immolation meaning burning, like phoenix rising from the ashes. Then illumination. Yeah. So thank you for documenting.
Well, that big words. I'm just humbled. And as you thank you to you. I'm sorry I lost you a bit, but I got what you were saying. And for me, it's the same. For me, was I'm the first surprised that people is writing me, Luis, thank you. Thank you for now. This makes sense. Thank you for giving us hope. I realized that it doesn't matter. It's not about the plants. It's not about this. It's just this emotion of hope. People was tired
Yeah.
of the same, and just having something that is like saying it's actually okay, you
Mhm.
know, like blah blah blah, as what you put it together. So I'm just humbled, and the action is being amazing. And this project actually, it was in my mind before. This was reconnect a bit, you know, like Dissolution. You know, for me, like I've been
I
with Dissolution.
remember because the reconnect supposed to be dissolution, but then it was
Yeah,
changed to reconnect. And I remember
it's
talking to
a
you. I remember talking to you in London. I said, Louise, why is it changed? I love the disillusion. Why is it reconnect? And you told me just the way it is.
yeah. That was not the right project for that place. So that was reconnect. That was very good as well. But also now it's better because this is now my project and this is what I always wanted to do. And before the pandemic, it was extremely urgent for me to talk about uh, all the philosophies, practices, and ways of life that are beyond this individualistic, consumeristic persona that we create, that we think we are the ego. And ego is good, but you know, like that's why I like the concept of solution. It's not killing the ego; it's just dissolve it a bit. It's like you just
Yeah.
don't go there; you go a bit less, and then we start to talk about the solution. It's a concept that it's just very flexible for me because I can talk from psychedelics to connection with nature to even solidarity with others, love, spirituality in all terms. And so this is a bit the the angle of the project to explore all these practices that allow us to connect with something else, whatever that is. And I don't want to go very religiously or very spiritual. For me, it's important to be grounded. As the documentary, I'm not going into the same language that other films, you know, like more like this spiritual language or transcendence and transcendent. And no, for me, it's
Yeah.
important to take this practice and ground it. It's very influenced by Rapper Sheldrake, Spiritual Practice, Science and the Spiritual Practice. That book was a big originator of this idea
Mhm.
because I think we are lacking these practices, and this is the reason where it becomes so individualistic. You know, like in the moment that you put this practice on practice, you become more as a whole, more as a one. So this
Yeah.
was important before the pandemic, but then the pandemic dissolved everything what's happening in this project. And you know, like, and I start to travel. This was my break. You know, like I knew that
Mhm.
sooner or later I was going to do this solution. I had already the first episode shoot in London with my friend Tree, and it was about dreams and dream practice. I never edited, and it's going to be an amazing episode. But this was my plans, and suddenly this pandemic hits the wall, and say, okay, no, this is the solution. This is the project. You know, like so I took my phone. Most of the film is shoot with my phone. You know, like took my phone, and it was the time to be in camera as well for me for first time, which a big step. And yeah, and this was like an amazing introduction to all the things that we will touch in this project, that I hope it will be a project that will last years or all my life. You know, like I always joke that I will, you know, the real dissolution will be my death in YouTube. You know, like uh, but yeah, this can, and I seem, without being into this, you know, like also I'm aware of how people follows people in YouTube or in this social media, and
Mhm.
that has a lot of egoic connotations, but also I'm aware that by showing the process of learning, that is a bit what we always did with Brian Rose and London Real, which was not the expert, is somebody uh, learning from experts. So
Yeah.
this is a bit what I also want to do here, to be me learning from experts of, I don't know. I hope to start to find new ideas, collaborations, and people that will want to do things with me. And yeah, and also it's a lot of, yeah. It's very flexible. I can even do fiction and short films. Maybe when they films. I mean, I see this as a long term project. So I'm just excited to finally start.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. So when I did see your disillusion channel,
Mm-hmm.
this like light bulb moment, oh wow, I now get it. I understand now why the movie, the London Real movie, turned into Reconnect, because this is Luis's journey. The solution is his path. This is your path, and this is your story, and it just fits so well. And I like that.
It's all happened for a reason. I see it so clearly now.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm so happy as well too.
From someone who knows your journey, a little bit, followed you, and knowing you as a person, personally, I feel like your journey from the beginning with plant medicine, psychedelics, is just one part. It's not just psychedelics, plant medicines.
No.
And you were able to convey this message really well. It is not about the plant medicine or the dieta that you've undertaken. It is everything. It was the concept of the consciousness and our own evolution, and also showing resilience and trusting the unfolding. So the real message that I got from there was trust the unfolding. Trust what that thing in your gut is telling you, and go with that, because that's the path. So this is what I walked away with. Yeah.
Well, I think I need you to work in my synopsis and marketing, because you are putting things much better than I can. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just it's hitting me a lot to listen to this. I'm so glad that you got something, and that your audience now is going to get something. And thank you so much for these words. Definitely.
Oh, thank you, Luis. And I just want to say one thing. Honestly, this has been a global dissolution, and I'm truly with you when it comes to there are a lot of, like you said, the spiritual and psychedelic talks about killing the ego, all that, but we know this is just wishful thinking. There's no such a thing. The ego will die when we die. It's not about that. And I love that you get this, and you really kind of also convey this in your videos. It's about training ourselves to be not slave to these programs that we've been conditioned, but rather claim the self-agency, so that we can become better humans for ourselves, for the people, for the planet. I think this is the path that I see you on, and I see you as my ally, because this is why the psychedelic conversation is born, because I wanted to have these meaningful conversations that can inspire and ignite these feelings and understandings. But these are so simple at the same time. Doesn't need to be complicated. Doesn't need to be around esoteric philosophies and practices, and it just needs to be so simplified and understandable.
It's very simple, and this is what humans are made to do. You see, we know how to do this. It's like the Dieta. If you strip yourself down from the bullshit, your nature made you to do these things, to be part of nature, to be in balance, to be in harmony. Like, this is all in our body already. You just need to trust. Also, I see a lot of negativity. We are the virus. The humans are the virus. Nature wants to kill us. I say, no, man. We are here for a reason. Like the bees for a reason. Like the insect. Like everything has an amazing reason to be here. And nature is not going to waste anything. So we are here for a reason. And I'm very hopeful that this is all part of a big plan of the plant. Dennis would say, but no, it's a big plan. There is a direction that is not human. It's not human direction. It's something else.
I love this. This is so beautifully put. It's for sure that it's plant medicines and psychedelics, just one part. There is a lot of parts to this. Becoming a good human for our environment, for ourselves. And thank you for playing a big part in this. I wish you all the best on your path, and we'll be following, and looking forward to having you back again on the podcast very soon.
This was amazing, very inspiring for me as well, to listen to you. Amazing perspective that you gave me, honestly, and just it brings me more desire to keep this thing, and I'm just impressed about your quality of conversations. I'm going to check the rest of your show, because I was not aware. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Luis. Amazing. All the best. And yeah, looking forward to, and I'm also looking forward to hearing what our listeners are going to think of your documentary, which we will be adding it to the comments. So all the best.
Yes, all the best.
Thank
Just
you.
to let know people that they can follow, they can see Dissolution in YouTube, and also if they are interested in Dieta, we are in psychonauta.com. That is the center that they will see in the film. That is where I'm at and where I live today. So yeah.
Amazing. Great. Because recommendation is very important. One of the things that I always talk about is to be very cautious because of in the West how plant medicines are amplified and promoted in the way that they are safe, you know, wherever you go. It's not true, and you've probably seen, and I'm glad you're there. If I ever decide to come on a Dieta, I'll be there for sure. Because recommendation, yeah, when you trust the person and you have these friendship and I think these are great ways to find centers that are really aligned with the
very important. Yeah, and that's a very good advice. Kind of always go to a center where you kind of know somebody that was there, or a recommendation. Don't go just into the Google and go there just because. But thank you. Thank you.
All the best. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this episode and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Much love. Thank you so much for joining us. Psychedelic Conversations podcast is designed to educate, inform, and expand awareness. For more information, please head over to psychedelicconversations.com. You can also share with your friends or leave a review so that we can reach more people. You can also join us in our private Facebook group to keep the conversation going. This show is for information purposes only, and it is not intended to provide mental health or medical advice. Thanks for listening.